working on, when they are working on specific projects. So short term, we've got the Marbletown Park, and based on the feedback that we got from our last meeting here, the town has given us direction to sort of redesign and rethink the Marbletown Park. And so we've got a subcommittee that's been focusing on that. And the main thing is sort of focusing on the toddler section of the park and bringing that closer and for better seating and supervision, and upgrading the playground equipment that's sort of dubbed the 1980s version of equipment. And I think some of you are familiar with that because I think there was some proposals put forth to maybe buy some equipment within a certain time frame. So maybe we can put this down. So I think we're trying to fast track that. So that's some of the short-term work we've been doing there. Short-term work on Marbletown Meadows is basically the landscaping and making the park usable for people, putting in some basic paths, walkways, and adopting some, creating rules and policies for that park that then can be adopted and hopefully applied to other parks. Make it sort of laying the groundwork for our future rules and regulations. The community center, that's the other subcommittee. So with that, the focus has been mostly on the building renovation. And I'm sure, again, the board's very familiar. There's a lot of discussion and talk about that process. So I think the current focus, and some of you actually might know more than us because you're in the thick of it, is just focusing on limited repairs to try to put the building back in service. So as a side note, this has actually been a very sort of frustrating area for the committee, just because we see it as a very important property where we can offer a lot of programs, and it's important obviously to the community, as I'm sure you've heard from public comment. So we're eager to try to get that building back in service because there's really just a lack of indoor space right now. I mean, in general, if you look at the inventory of what the town has, there's a fair amount of outdoor recreation space with all the trails and the parks, and then even surrounding towns have a lot of outdoor properties as well, with the state parks and other town, other trails that fall within other towns' responsibilities. So there's quite a bit on the outdoor, but a real lack on the indoor, and the community center is a huge part of that. And it's definitely put a lot of pressure, I think, on Jill's department also to figure out where we can put some of these programs. And I'll probably repeat this in my recommendation section, but I think a lot of the pressure is coming back here to the municipal center and trying to utilize the space here to augment what was closed down at the community center. So. And just, so those are the three main subcommittees. We've done a couple other small things like look at, try to help alleviate the pain on pickleball reservations, try to put in some new rules there to make it more fair, and especially to the community residents versus outside residents. So put some rules in there to help give priority to the residents. We worked on that beach sanitation survey with Stuart. So there's like small little things that we've worked on, but mostly everything falls within the subcommittees that I spoke of. Now moving to the long-term or strategic, we've talked about, or we've come up with park naming conventions. That's what we're in the middle of devising. Park, how do you name a park versus a trail, definitions, continuity as far as signage and guidelines. We did get a little stalled in that because two of the committee members that were on that subcommittee rolled off, and so we didn't have as many people focusing their attention on that. But we're still working on pushing forward on recommending guidelines for signage and for the trails and parks to give it more consistency, modernize it, make it more readable, that sort of thing. And as I spoke already, we're working on developing policies and procedures. So that was short-term for the park, but long-term, and that we want to make this document a living document that can be expanded and applied to all the properties, not just the meadows. Also, longer term, we've just created an additional subcommittee to focus on community engagement, with the objective of organizing community gatherings and surveying the community, sending out surveys, surveying them at these gatherings. And we think this is going to be critical in understanding the community's needs and interests to help us better inform the board and also better support, I think, long-term planning and budgeting. So we're excited about that. We've got quite a few people that want to be part of that subcommittee. And it also falls in line with what the bylaws are in creation of the group, in the fact that we're supposed to study the needs and interests of the citizens and develop plans and programs and so on. So we think this is a nice dovetail to that. And then the last thing is, now that we feel that the committee has a firm footing, we've been up and running for a year, we're looking forward to taking on a larger role in the planning and integration of the purchased lands under the Community Preservation Fund. Something we probably weren't really prepared to do at the beginning, but now I think the Preservation's Advisory Board, where they're really mandated to recommend purchases, I think the town is relying on us to sort of figure out how we're going to integrate those properties into the overall big picture of parks and recreation. So that's something we're going to be focusing more on in the coming year, both with the meadows and what kind of plans we see for that, and then I guess the new property that's been acquired.
To be acquired.
To be acquired.
The headline was wrong in the paper.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we didn't buy. We didn't.
Status, but-
So was the headline.
Like, yeah, we didn't buy it yet.
Right. So should the board decide to buy it, we'll look forward to being involved in that as well, once it gets handed over. Okay, last part, recommendations. I've said it already, I'm gonna say it again, the town needs more indoor space. It's a real issue. The town needs to provide more activities also for the 50-plus population. From what we see, 44% of the population is 50-plus. Only 22% are children under 18. So there's a disparity here, and we feel that children, while certainly important, are a minority compared to the 50-plus population, and they also have tremendous resources provided by the schools as far as programs and after-school programs and sports and recreation. So it's not to say that we want to short shrift children, it's that we need to put more focus on the older population because it's significant. We feel that there needs to be a strategic plan for a community center that will service the needs of the community for the foreseeable future. And we likely see probably the need to build a new community center. And in the meantime, we need to figure out how we're going to open up or free up more space to address the shortage of indoor space and the closing of the current community center. This has been talked about, I know, before by the board, but we also see, we recommend that there be a strategic plan to tie park resources together to make them more cohesive with the trails, connecting to the parks, connecting to a community center, connecting to town center. Sidewalks is something that's come up. Working on right-of-ways to make these kind of connections. That's something else we think might be helpful. And what else? We also think that the board should look at how it can delegate what authority it can to the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee as it pertains to our purview. And we could be used as a resource maybe to help alleviate some of the bottlenecks, especially like with managing, maybe project management, like with community center and overseeing that, assisting with the organization of vendors or resources. Or maybe another one is the renovation, I think, of the bathrooms at Marbletown Park. I think that's something the subcommittee would be well versed at doing. Just to help alleviate the bottleneck, because the town has a lot to deal with. It's obvious. There are a lot of decisions to make. And then grant coordination. We think that there could be maybe better communication on what the plans are for grants and what the strategically long-term, what the board wants to do as far as acquiring grants and how that then dovetails or relates to parks, trails, and recreation. maybe some advance notice rather than saying, finding out, oh, we just got a grant, or we're doing a grant, and well, does that dovetail, or does that make sense with what we're already planning or deciding to recommend? That's what I think. And finally, I think we realize that it's exciting to purchase new land through the preservation fund, but we would caution the board on being so aggressive in acquiring new properties when we're already struggling with managing the properties we have, both time-wise and money-wise. And as I just said, there's a decision bottleneck that I think exists at all towns, and it's a reality. And just when you add more properties, you're adding to the demands of the board, and then that short shrifts other priorities as well that are already in the works. So it's great to have new properties, but at the same time, I think it's got to be balanced, and we need to realize the long-term knock-on effects of keep taking on more property and more property when we already struggle to maintain what we have. Cool. We haven't really yet got to the programming portion of the mandate in the bylaws here, but we do think that the outreach subcommittee will help us in that. So that's one area that we also look forward to doing more on. Not so much a recommendation there, but just a comment on that aspect of what our charter is, and we haven't lost sight of it. That's it. Any questions? Daisy?
So I just want to address a couple of things. One of the things I think might be really useful, because I think it might be useful for your committee and the preservation committee to meet occasionally to coordinate and ideas, because it would be helpful going forward. I mean, I know, the Flair property, if it happens, came on kind of unexpectedly, but part of that was because it was the housing part was so attractive. But anyway, but that being said, I know that they're looking to, Tim and I have both spoken to them about this idea of now looking to, which you just spoke to, the connectivity in town and reaching out. And Tom has a great map of how you could connect High Falls and Stone Ridge, and eventually over to Marbletown Meadows. And these are, in order to do that, we can use money from the preservation fund to purchase easements. So anyway, I think it might be useful for the two committees to get together to talk about, so that you're not working, to counter purposes.
No, exactly. Because if there's greater plan to make more connectivity and more strategic, and then if
you have input on that,
properties, they should be citing properties maybe that fit into that plan.
Right. But the other thing I want to talk to a little bit, I want to push back a little bit on the, I want you to, when I talk about this, I want you to think about aspiration rather than what is. And I understand the 50 plus, that is the truth, but I also think the community needs to grow. And in order to grow, we need to attract more young families here. So I just caution you not to say, well, the schools will take care of that, because I actually had breakfast with a young woman who's recently moved to the town, and she has kids who are toddler age, and she's a little upset about the lack of opportunity for kids and families of that age in town. And also that the way the town is set up, it's not very walkable, and those kinds of things. And, she wasn't threatening me or anything, but she said it has influenced some families to move to Rhinebeck, to leave the town, because the town isn't set up as, attractively for that age group. So just rather than sort of saying, okay, we need so I don't disagree with you with what you're saying, but I'm just saying, I think you have to give it,
No, I think that's
picture.
a great point. And while that's a survey of one, I think the subcommittee that's going to reach out will help us flesh that out and really see what it is that, the growing population wants in relation to what the senior population wants.
I also like the idea of the connectivity, and you mentioned, I think I heard the word sidewalks.
Yeah, it's
Um,
tossed around a lot.
I walk from where I live, which is on Vincent Lane, over to Marbletown Meadows, going past the school and down the hill, and it's a little hairy, you know,
Yes.
we really need to think about sidewalks. And I'm thinking, when we talked about, Rich, about the sidewalks from the school, the elementary school, because boy, if they ever had to walk down those,
Well, we didn't get- we
Roads.
applied for a grant.
yeah.
No,
We
it's a
can-
big project, but you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yeah,
So we do those
exactly.
sidewalks here,
But
those side-
I think
with
you're
the
really
planning.
onto something with the connectivity and also
Yeah, I think it
the
makes sense.
sidewalks,
And we
yeah.
have all these properties, we want to make, to the point of people moving in, you want that to be appealing. you want the town to be friendly.
Exactly.
And speaking of sidewalks, I actually had a really good meeting yesterday with the young gentleman from High Falls who, wants to make High Falls more walkable. And we had a great meeting with the DOT, and I can go over some of that with you.
Mhm.
Because I think those are areas that, that you can be looking at, like, how to make the town more walkable doesn't necessarily mean we need to acquire more property right now. It also means we have to make crossing 209 and 213
Yeah.
safer. We
That's
have
right.
to,
That's
all of those
right.
kinds of things. In fact, the young mother that I had breakfast with brought that up as well. So I think those are all the kinds of things that you guys can think about, that don't cost a lot of money,
Yeah,
so.
no, just time with the state.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I think it's a great report. I very much appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I wanted to say,
Yes, Tim.
yeah, I think, thanks for reminding us of how we designed that committee. And it is quite broad, which to me really calls out having to be very coordinated and focused at the same time. And I like the structure that you have. And the idea of coordination was always thought about. And that's why one member was to cross-fertilize the Preservation
Exactly.
Advisory Board to make sure that you're both apprised of what's taking place. For example, there's a wonderful connectivity map that's already thought through, right?
Okay.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't
Tom,
think any of us-
Thanks to Mr. Conrad.
Tom
You
did.
haven't seen it.
It's
We'd
not-
love to.
Tom did.
So it's
Yeah, you did. It's
Yeah.
for the Preservation Committee.
it's quite nice. So you should see that presentation and see the vision
Yeah.
going
It's
forward.
on us No. It's on us to, reach out and find out what other people are doing as well.
Yeah.
It's not anybody's fault.
And so it's nice that you're coordinating and focusing, like, for example, how we're presenting ourselves as a town, whether it be visually with signage, and also to be fair to people. If it's clear what we're saying are rules for the town, we're just being fair, and people have equal access, if you
Yeah.
will. And also the resources, how we're making decisions about resources, budget. We want to be fair across the age groups. And so any assessment you have from engagement from the community, we can use it.
Yeah.
Especially when it's data, tell us how many people said what
Exactly right.
and what are the priorities? Because we want to make decisions based on data and what resources we have. We're going to have to shut down some things probably, to be more efficient, and maybe we can expand more in the future in other areas.
Yeah. So we're excited about that subcommittee to give you guys that data. Yeah, that's our objective.
And yeah, as soon as you can determine somebody to sort of to be that, as Tim said, the cross-pollinator person,
Yeah.
because I know Sumeda can't do it anymore. So obviously, because it's
Yeah,
not on
yeah.
the committee.
We
So
will
that would be
convene
great.
and we will definitely identify someone. I think there's a bunch of people that are eager to do it.
Good. As far as the Marbletown Meadows, Sumeda had been the representative, so he had come to a bunch of the meetings. So if you want to appoint somebody else from your committee,
Exactly.
we have a meeting Friday, so I can reach out and let you guys know
Okay,
if somebody
perfect.
wants to come.
I think that'd be great.
And
We will have.
yeah,
somebody
so
for
we didn't get the grant. We applied for the
Right.
grant. We didn't get it, but we think we want to do some of the work with the money we have in the fund.
you. Okay.
And we were
Again,
also told to, very clearly by the woman who runs the.
To
grant,
reapply.
Reapply again, that we have a very good
Right,
shot
that's
the next time.
encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, she specifically said, they gave us 500,000 2 years ago. Didn't get it last year, and she was like, definitely reapply. So, but what we want to do, depending on the bids, do we want to put it back in the grant application so half of it'll get paid on, or do we just want to pay for it out of the preservation fund? So that's what we're all going to be meeting with and
Understood.
kind of moving forward with that.
Yeah.
The beach sanitation survey. So Ulster County Soil and Water, Riverkeeper, Ty and Bond, and us, we're ready to go. We need DEC to fill out some applications before we can do some water testing. The state hasn't, we've gotten the grant, but they have a contract process. It has to go through the Attorney General, through the State Controller, so it hasn't even been put in their system yet. So the four of us are all ready to go. We want to have a kickoff meeting, and the state's like, timeout. It's a 2-year grant. We haven't even filed it yet, so there's nothing. So we're in a holding pattern with that.
Understood.
And we got the recycling grant. We fill it out in October. They tell us in December.
Yeah.
This year we filled it out in October. They told us a week ago we got the grant. So that's just the way the state is.
Well, that's good information for us to have.
Yeah. It's like we hurry up and wait, and that's why they put 3-year windows on them, because they know their process. And then when we fill out the paperwork, then it's got to go back through the Attorney General. It's got to go back.
Well, that's fair. So then it allows us to know that sometimes we need to be nimble.
Yeah.
And it's not, through neglect or anything,
Yeah, it's
or
just,
not wanting to. It's just, that's the way the process.
it's just a
is
process.
perfectly constructed by powers beyond us all.
and we can't start work until the contract has been approved by the state. So they won't reimburse us for work that's done prior to them. So we're just, it stinks, but that's kind of the rules.
Got it. Well, it's good info.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, if you might help us with too, is you're talking about helping with projects and helping take the burden off the town sometimes. That can be done easily. It does require supervision or whatever, and Rich has to do some supervision or others. If you could help us inform how we can use our employed resources, like for mowing and other things, and or even Jill's time, how how her time is, utilized or overutilized. Where do we fill in with volunteerism? Because in the past, Marbletown has been mostly about volunteers, a lot about volunteers, right? Where are we today about that? Do we need more volunteers? Do we need more staff?
I would think volunteers could be very helpful. We probably need to have a sidebar on that, because I maybe have the wrong impression about how volunteers are handled. I think they're very limited and restricted in what they can do, because they're not employees, and there's insurance, and there's these other, so we just need to dive into that to
Like
see.
rail trail, like our rail
Rail
trail
trail.
volunteers, they're cutting trees that are across the rail trail. They have got sections, they take chainsaws out,
Yeah. I mean,
but at the end of the day, it's not a volunteer's job to be mowing the lawn. It's not a volunteer's job to be cutting chains. They want to do it, that's great, but
well, it's one, if we have people that want to do it, can they, and is that something the town wants? Would that alleviate resources? Again, maybe through Daisy and all, we can have more
yeah,
discussion
and the
on
highway department does
volunteers.
that. If a tree's down, it's dangerous. Jill calls the highway department. We've got a tree truck. They've got a professional tree cutter. So there's, like I said, we value the volunteers, but there's certain things that you don't want to do. We don't want to do it around our house. We certainly don't want to do it for the town, So it's one of those things. And quick, another thing with the pickleball in this building, the one thing that about this building is it's owned by Marbletown and Rosendale.
Yep.
So we don't control it. Everything that's done here is done by 2 town boards.
Yep.
So, the pickleball, Rosendale's been incredibly supportive of all Jill's hard work. Jill gets beat up.
There's a lot of Rosendale people there.
No, totally. But Jill runs it. Jill and Jess, they do all the booking. They
They
do.
do, yeah.
And, so the
They get
Marbletown.
harassed all the time, yeah.
Yeah, and you should see some of the texts I get. This group played 3 times this week. We only got 1. And there's Marbletown groups that come in with 2 people live out of the town. So what do? Tell them they can't have their friend. It's really hard. And 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we didn't even have this building. So they're here Christmas Day, New Year's Day,
Absolutely.
and it's awesome. But somebody plays 3 days a week, they get mad if they can't play 4. So sometimes I think it's okay to say, hey, ARC rents this place. Their clients do rehabilitation programs in the gym. That's just gonna, it's just the way it's gonna
Right.
be. And I know you know that.
There's certain reasons, right, and thank you just reiterating the point that that needs to be communicated out to a greater population for.
It's not
understanding.
just us and it's not just Jill. It's this building's owned by both towns
Right,
and
so there's a certain amount of,
And then there's-
time. that has
and
to
there's
be-
volleyball groups. There's volleyball groups that want to use it. There's
Okay,
adult
all the more
basketball
reason why
leagues.
we need to
And
build a new community center.
listen, that's the way I'd rather go.
We'll put it
So,
on top of the town
Some-
garage.
yeah.
Some of this gets alleviated in the spring and summer.
It does with outdoor.
With the outdoor.
Right, but there's definitely, and Jill can speak to it more than I can probably, but there's definitely a concentration and a lot more tension around it.
Well, you know what? And kids play year-round sports. So you used to play soccer in September. Now they're playing soccer in the winter, soccer in the fall. So everybody wants to be inside. Indoor used to be
That's true.
basketball in the winter and wrestling. Now it's soccer and wrestling
And then you
and
get the
basketball.
perspective, well, there's like 4 schools, they all have gyms, what's going on there?
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth.
I get it. I'm not, yeah, so anyway, that's it. And the signage, I mean, do you think we should hire like a professional company to look at the signage?
We wouldn't mind that.
Okay, so
But-
let me,
Something
this
that-
sign thing is, the funniest thing happened to me. Rich, I think you probably met this person. He sent you information. I was at the transfer station and a guy came up to me and he said, I've been in signs my whole life. The signs in town stink. And he's done signs in New York City and all this stuff. He's retired now, but he
Is it
talked.
Jim?
Yes, Jim.
I met him.
So anyway, he actually, at first I was like, oh my God, I can't even get arrested
He's your neighbor.
when I'm doing my trash. But then I started listening to him and he talked about how to make signs so that people notice them more and
Right.
how we
They make it more readable.
readable and how we don't do that very well in town. And so I asked him, I said, going forward, when you guys do the signage, he said he'd be more than happy to volunteer his time and as a consultant.
That's great.
You
So,
can reach out to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so when
Yeah,
maybe
that
he
contact
can,
info.
yeah, and
Engage.
yeah, and he definitely knows his stuff because
Yeah.
I sat there for a half an hour and learned more about signs than I've ever cared to know
And like the
about.
state has done a good job at being very consistent with their parks and having, a lot of continuity. And we sort of look at like that as a good idea, or, inspiration, for how maybe we could take a similar approach. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
I think that it would be.
And I'm sure people notice Rosendale signage
Mhm.
down. I like Rosendale signage. I think it's really kind of neat. They got a $50,000 scenic byway grant to develop their
I
signage.
did hear that.
And we're in the scenic byway in Marbletown. So it's a group that probably hasn't met in 5 years, but we're eligible for certain monies and grants because Marbletown's in the scenic byway.
I don't want to delve too much in this, but the town was going to get a grant writer. Is that
So the
true or
problem
not
with a
true?
grant writer is Clay, a lot of grant writers specialize in certain
I
things.
see.
So, if we're going for a water grant, you're not going to hire the same grant writer
Got it.
as if you're going for a parks grant. So it's really, and they all work at the same time. So there's no grants available for 6 months. And then, then the DEC's got a deadline in June. And then, the consolidated funding application is July. And then another, Parks and Rec is September. So they're,
All right. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I know
Employing a
it's
grant
it's
witer-
gonna be like a main grant person that.
yeah.
Okay.
But
so
we're not-
grants are
They
still
all
sort of-
specialize in different
Opposed
things.
to if we get a grant and there's a grant available, we could apply for that maybe is outside the realm of the technical know-how of our volunteers and we need to hire somebody, we're not opposed to spending the money for that. In fact, as we apply for this whole water situation, we're going to be, employing somebody for that. So
Yeah, he's out of Pennsylvania. That's all he does is write.
it's not to say we don't want to spend the money on it because we will. It's
Got it.
just,
No, it's good input.
Yeah.
You just
So
need
then
some-
we can
they're all
incorporate that into what our
They've all
discussion-
got their strengths
Yep.
with the grants and.
Okay.
And just to say, tap into historic preservation as you're doing signage too. Obviously, that has a whole overlay to itself. Historic preservation being the districts.
Yes,
et
yes.
cetera.
That's something we'll have to take
Yeah.
into account and understand whether that should be its own
That's
entity
HPC,
or
wouldn't it?
not, or.
Yeah, that would be the HPC
Yeah,
problem.
so just collaborate.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind as well.
Thank you, Clay.
Yes, one comment,
Yeah.
I think, from one of our subcommittee members.
I just am hoping that your committee understands the level of research that people on our committee have undertaken. For instance, the people looking at park equipment, how many hours did you guys
Oh,
spend?
Without a doubt.
Right.
Months.
And so my hope is that when you think about ordering park equipment, you will talk to them.
Oh, no, we totally.
We've got everything. We're
We
gonna
got everything
discuss that.
here.
We're gonna discuss
We're
it.
gonna discuss
And
this today.
similarly, Rich, did we get an extension on the community center grant?
Yes.
Yeah, till June. or
June,
July.
and that is, the heating is going to be handled totally separately than the rest of it. They're going ahead with that right now. They're getting the bids for that now. That's going to be done on a totally different timeline. It'll be done in time by June. In fact, they're going out to bids on that.
I think.
He's just putting together the
Until we're not.
specs for it, and then he's putting it out to bid. So he's,
All right, so is any part of that attending to the problems with the water, the foundation and the roof?
No, that's all gonna be
no,
separate.
because it's gonna, he got a sort of a ballpark figure on what it's gonna cost just to do the removal of the furnace and this new heating system, and that's pretty much gonna eat up the whole
We,
grant.
as a committee, would love it if you would communicate
Well,
with us about.
I just found this out
how that's
yesterday.
Daisy just met with
Literally
them.
just found this out yesterday, so.
Okay, so our committee, being research heads, would love to be involved in this deep dig. And I also think that the community center as is could support young parents with programs for young children.
Yeah.
And it's something we on the committee are anxious to get going on programming.
Yes, we are.
So the community center, it's tough with kids because there's nothing for the kids to do there. They run up and down the hill in the back. There's Wendy, you spoke and I didn't interrupt you, so let me finish. We've got a park, we've got trails, we've got this building. The community center is great for certain things. It's not great for a lot of kids' programming. Maybe a kid's birthday party, but there's just no play facilities there. There's nothing. You're on a main road, so.
Indoor activities for kids, I mean.
I said that, they can do some indoor activities, but
Absolutely.
Jill and Jess are using Marbletown School now to do a lot of the youth programs. So where would you rather be, in the gymnasium at Marbletown School doing kids recreation activities, or would you rather be in the community center? Well, I think the kids would rather be in where they can throw a ball and not have to worry about knocking a light down in this. Please, okay, so anyway, we're working on it.
Okay, but the mommy and me.
Thank you,
activities
Wendy.
are-
Thank,
Thank you.
yep, we're gonna have more information soon, so. Okay.
And I am, one of the reasons anything I find out, I'm going to bring directly to the committee when I meet with everybody. So I'm not, this is all going to be run through you, so.
Yeah, so get somebody appointed to the Marbletown Meadows,
Yes.
and you know who you want.
Yeah, well, we'll confer.
Yeah, you don't have to do it
We'll-
today.
We'll email you.
Yeah.
Probably by tomorrow, I hope.
This may already exist, so I apologize if you to the committee. Do we have access to the grants to know when they were applied, when they were accepted, and how long the grants are, so that would our expectations of when projects can be done?
So do you have a specific grant?
No, just. in
Yeah,
general,
yeah, oh,
like,
absolutely. We have,
committee.
if you want, you probably don't care about the recycling grant, but they all have deadlines. Most of them are 3 years out to get the work done. Like Tom's, your grants are what, 3 years, most of the NYSERDA grants?
Yeah.
They're about 3 years because,
We're like a year into the summer.
yeah, no, because it takes time to,
And the straight grant that we got from Marbletown Meadows, the last one, which was that was a purchase grant. So we've already used that money. So,
no, we got the money. We haven't
got
used
the
it.
money. We haven't used it, but we already purchased the property, but
Right.
it was to reimburse us. So we now have that money to use toward improvements at the park. But the state has.
That goes back into the fund.
Yeah,
Right, the
yeah.
fund, But the state has nothing to do with that.
Per
It-
the regulations of the fund.
We've fulfilled all our
I
obligations.
wasn't sure we had to.
With that particular grant. So.
But the water testing grant, I think we're supposed to have the testing done by September.
No, it's a 2-year grant. The
I read the
deadline-
timeline.
No, that's the
September.
timeline they wanted to get it done.
Yeah.
Tie and bond. It's a 2-year deadline is the DEC grant. So, but they wanted to get it done in like
Summer.
5 months, but we can't do it because the state hasn't even, there's no contract yet. We have to, yeah, so
But it'd be pretty expedited once that's executed.
Yeah, I don't think
5
it,
months.
yeah. Well, assuming they can get on properties, you know, they have to get on private properties. We have to get permission from property owners. So I don't, it shouldn't be hard, but we don't know if it's going to get filed in June. I mean, I just don't know. You know, the state, every time you call them, they're understaffed and overworked,
Yeah.
and they don't have people in there answering the phone. You can't even get through to the state now. It's all voicemail.
It's gonna get
It's
worse.
all voicemail. That's all it is. Call DEC in New Paltz. It's voicemail. Nobody calls you back.
It's like that at the Department of Health.
Department of Health.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's really frustrating. It's email you can get through to people, but not calling or speaking to a person. So, but Marissa, I can get you that we have contracts for every grant we do. We get a contract, and the county grants, the ARPA money is 2 years. Like the beach, like the bathrooms,
Hmm.
that has,
Oh, that
we
was
have to
good.
spend the money by December 31st, 26. So it's all, you know, it's in there. So,
Does any subcommittee member have anything else?
can you guys give us a few minutes?
A rundown on the
Yeah.
playground stuff?
Great, love to. Okay.
Do you want to look at mine?
I have one.
That one?
Couple of
We
things,
have a couple changes.
couple of things
Changes.
I would like to say before we start, and that is, we want to thank Jill and Jess and Michelle, who helped us do this, and Daisy, who came late to the committee, but has been very proactive in helping us with resources and things. So what we've done, Gail is gonna go over the budget money, but what we have here is an overhead view, 3 copies of the 3 different companies we've been in touch with, and the equipment and the placement of it. The summary is the cost. We're proposing that it can be done in shifts.
We can share. Mary and I can.
And I can share too.
The big one, I'll give one to Daisy. And this is a revised, because we just got a new proposal from one of the companies, so we had to adjust all our figures. But we did have it broken down into what we feel is immediate needs. And this is all geared for toddler to approximately 12 in the area immediately outside the existing pavilion. Gail will explain the things that we have proposed, things that we would like to try to get done this year. The equipment takes a little bit longer, so we understand that, and take it away.
Okay, so there was a change with Compan because we had taken off, there was like a spinny thing. And Jill and Jess told us that when they had taken kids to park in Newburgh or Poughkeepsie, that kind of made them sick. So we took that off. So the Compan total is less than it was. But, so Compan was 128, 430, 44. And then there is a musical piece that we also wanted to get. The Compan didn't have one similar, and that's from another group. That's from Play with a Purpose. And then Burke is 134, 236. Similar pieces of equipment. Play with a Purpose, just gonna go back, I'm sorry, Compan, their swing set accommodates 4 swings, but it would be like the nest swing takes up 2. And then they are, the other 2 is like a mommy and me one, and then one for this one, the adaptive swing.
Yeah.
So we tried to come up with things that would make this open to any ability.
Right.
All right. And then in addition to the last one is Play with a Purpose. Play with a Purpose was the one we first came up with, but after looking into them more, they are less expensive. This piece is much smaller, but they're out of Florida. And when I'm asking the different companies about who would be coming up to look the project over and helping with the project manager installation, that they bring people up from Florida. The other 2 companies are semi-local. The Compan she lives down near Cold Spring, our representative. Yeah, and then I have a little slip attached that she gave us the project manager, the people they've used for the last 8 to 10 years, and they will come
Just label.
ahead of time, look the area over, make sure that, what we've picked out. She's
Yeah.
already been here and measured, but, where it's, things would look the best. And then they will sit down with the people that are going to do some of the, like if we have the highway department, do some of the removal of the soil and get it ready for them. They would meet with them and tell them exactly what they needed. And then they will have people on site the whole time for the installation and cleanup. And
Okay.
they provide dumpsters. It's all in their estimate. So,
I would
and
like to
then
mention that,
Burke,
right.
you want to talk
Well,
about
no.
Burke? Because you,
Well, Burke was the same. They actually sent people out and met us on site, and we did measurements, and they recommended what pieces would be good. We made many trips out there. We did many measurements out there. And the thing to keep in mind is the time frame, and what's the best bang for the buck. And it doesn't have to be all at one time. We could do a main piece this year, and we could do more pieces again, depending upon, we never knew how much money we actually had to work with. So we came up with what we felt was immediate, that we could do this year, what we felt was ideal for this season, and what we felt was a comprehensive thing in total, which included adding 2 pavilions, smaller pavilions on site this year that could be utilized
That'd be
by
nice.
smaller groups of people.
Yeah.
One up by the creek, one over towards the basketball court, and not necessarily where you need the whole big pavilion. Gail also found someone who is willing to, and on the back, I think it's the last page that you have there, is going to design a mural. for
Oh,
the
I have
inside
that.
Yeah,
wall
that's a cool
Yeah.
of the
idea. I love
pavilion.
that.
She has people who will paint.
A
It would
mural
be
Included
on
for the
that,
top of the
included extra
right, well, no,
benches.
from the
We
backside of,
yeah.
like the snack bar.
tables
Oh,
to
neat.
replace the ones that are rotten in the pavilion. So we included all those things that we felt
Mary
should be
Charlotte,
done
she
immediately.
lives just
So
over here.
that's basically
Oh, she's a friend of
it.
mine.
Oh, Mary Ann? Oh,
yeah?
she's wonderful.
Great. She's amazing. She
Yes.
works as a friend of mine as well, and she's incredibly.
So this is
talented.
really for the board to look through
Yeah.
everything, and you'll have your discussions and.
Are you guys,
And-
you guys gonna make a recommendation?
Yeah, what's
to
your
the board?
recommendation?
The Trails
Yeah,
Committee?
really.
Well, you don't have to do it now,
Yeah,
but
I
is
was
that
gonna
something?
say.
They didn't get
We,
to see this.
Okay.
but we have given them the packets with all of our equipment on it. Now, as Juliet said, we could do this in stages. If you do it in stages, though, it's gonna be more,
Yeah, we get it more
right,
expensive.
more
for-
expensive
Yeah.
and
I'm also-
the retaining material, the plastic, it's like
Yeah.
Lincoln Log kind of.
Surfacing, the
And
surfacing
that,
has to meet.
we'd have to open up if, again,
specifications,
and
that's
yeah.
very
Oh, right,
expensive.
yeah.
It's as much as the equipment.
I mean, I asked you this before, and so during one of the our meetings, I mean, the low hanging fruit is the pavilions, picnic tables, that kind of
Benches, yeah.
thing. But part of me goes, people really want playground equipment.
Right,
So maybe
right.
that's what maybe that's even though,
And some of this,
This
I
is
mean,
pretty-
they have if we put in the order, it's really not that long for them to get it. It's a matter of getting the surface ready and everything.
Right.
But to get the equipment itself, it doesn't sound like it would be that long.
So can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
It's my understanding, Rondout School District is doing a capital project for brand new playground equipment at Marbletown School. Is it possible to maybe see what they're putting there so we could put something different in Town Park? So we didn't duplicate? Just a thought.
Which school?
My understanding, Marbletown is doing a capital project and they're going to replace their equipment, playground equipment at the elementary school.
Equipment is fairly new. I'm surprised. that- yeah.
Somebody was just telling me the other day, somebody in the PTA. I was surprised they go capital planned for, and they said they're doing a whole new capital plan for playground equipment. And obviously during school hours, it's closed, but after school hours, weekends, summers,
Right.
everybody can go there. So
Yeah.
This,
do
a
we not
lot,
want to duplicate?
some of the things we have to, Jill and
I
Jess
don't want to put
also
more work
told-
on
right,
you,
no,
but
They,
you hate to have
um,
the same thing 2
said-
miles away.
right, said slides and swings are the most important, the most used, right? Slides and.
Yeah, Jill's on the one out here every day.
Yes.
I got to get her into out here.
But,
Takes like a
the
3-hour
thing is,
lunch and I got like, come on.
We want to have that equipment at Marbletown Park by the pavilion, because
Yep.
if they're having get-togethers at the pavilions,
Right.
different ones, they want to be able to watch their kids.
Right.
They're
Taking
right
their
there.
kids across the
So
street.
majority of this is slides and swings, so I think
No,
we
that's
would
great.
still want
It's
that.
great stuff.
Yes.
So,
So.
Thank you for all your
you wanna
research.
Wait, you guys
So
wait.
we, Gail and Julia was very well informed every step of the way of all their different plans and their options.
we've given them stacks of paper.
So we're all very well versed on what they're proposing and we all unanimously agree with what they're proposing.
Is there priority though? Did you decide?
I believe that they have outlined priorities.
I have been working with Compan mostly, and
Yeah.
that's who you had
That's
hooked
who
us up with,
initially-
Daisy.
Mhm.
I cannot tell you, I mean, she has offered to be on the phone with us when we had this meeting,
Mm.
in case anybody had questions or,
Uh,
they have been so on top of it. I just asked her to remove this one piece of equipment this weekend, and she had everything ready for me. She shot me, I have the new information if you want it broken down better. But I mean,
She's
she
a
just,
pleasure to work
yeah.
with. I would say the big piece, the swings and the musical.
I just,
If I would have to pick 3, do you agree?
Nice.
And then, because you can add,
and with summer camp,
the slide is from a
you know,
different
there, you
company.
want to have equipment.
Exactly.
So
But the slide also requires surfacing and it's a different company. So that's a different
just put a mud puddle,
dynamic.
on the bottom of the slide. That's my only request.
one of the old metal ones they use.
When
Yeah.
you burn yourself, you got to go real fast because you're burning yourself. I don't want you to get on a slide.
Not Compan. This-
The, that is.
I know it is.
Compan.
No,
Yes,
but
everything, the only thing here that's not Compan is the musical.
Oh,
I-
okay.
Is
Oh,
it-
I see.
They just
That
didn't
we
have
could
a
swap.
musical piece that
But
we
you
liked.
added it
Yeah.
together anyway.
Right, so
So-
if we went with Compan,
So the 3 pieces are the swings.
right, and which is 3 different,
3.
it's actually,
Stands
the
up, it
swings
doesn't require
are,
a
it's
special
a swing
surfacing.
set,
So when you
frame.
get that from a different.
And then there's
company,
3
that
different
is
swings that we would be getting with it, which is I think it's on the back here. Well done. It's,
I think
would
we
be-
could do 1 pavilion
Is it on
instead of
this?
2.
oh, yes, thank you.
Oh, cool.
Oh, no, well, this is the other, this is Berg. That's Berg.
That's her. That's
That's
Compan.
Compan. So,
We could ask Andrew. All right, we'll go over this. I mean, we'll go over it. And then
Could
Yeah,
we,
this is great.
could we do a
those are the
a
pieces.
gifting campaign, a naming campaign for the park?
I've been going into.
Municipalities can't solicit for money.
Right.
We're not allowed to.
So
We're not
if
allowed to solicit for money.
When I went,
someone wanted to gift
Yeah, but it can't be
allocated
we
for
can't
something like
ask,
this,
we're not allowed to ask for it.
right,
Somebody could, yes.
someone
definitely.
could do it.
when I was down in Maryland, I was going to the parks net down there. And they have like their walkways with bricks, and then people would buy bricks to help.
Well, there's school
And
does
then,
that too.
yeah, and then there was a sign too that it was grandma somebody's. And
So this is the Compan.
Sorry.
Yes,
And
yes.
then,
So this would be this,
and is this the
This
slide
one.
too?
that's the one big piece, has 3 different
I
slides.
love this.
It's really good. And then these would be the 3
Okay.
swings.
Excellent.
So this is
And then-
Mommy and Me, this is the adaptive. And
So if
we
got
have
that and the
older
swings
And
And
the
the-
music.
and
people
guy.
come that
and maybe
from
one
the group
pavilion, I
homes.
think would be really
and they
nice
would
to
also
have
be
up by
able to-
where the creek is.
Oh, yeah,
And we have a
definitely.
You
half
know,
ramp
and
to
then
go
the
up
tables and chairs. If you
over
want, I
the
can,
lip, so they
you know,
could
I'll
get
work
a
that
wheelchair
tomorrow
even there
and
too.
come up if we just
Wow.
use those, which are the core pieces.
It's great work, guys.
Yeah, really good work.
Amazing.
Right,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So
Yeah, that was really good.
I want to ask them to, I mean, how do we want to do this? I like ask them for a final recommendation? Or?
Yeah, that's what we just mentioned. Maybe you guys give us a final recommendation and
Yeah.
we'll reach out to the school tomorrow too to see what if they're planning on doing it. Cool. All right, so we're gonna move quick on. There's no resolutions. Couple quick things. Columbia Utilities, everybody remember this, the CCA with Columbia Utilities dropped the town and 9 other municipalities. It's been in court for 2 years. Finally, Columbia paid their fine. Money will be distributed. April 17th, checks will be mailed to everybody. It's about $50 per household as long as you are in the CCA. They're going to send us a copy of the check. We'll put it on our website. Don't throw it out. A lot of people unfortunately will think it's like a junk mail, but it's real. It'll be around $50. The check will only be good for 3 months. So if it's not cashed in 3 months, it's not good and you won't be able to get a replacement is my understanding. And I think what's going to happen afterwards, any uncashed money will be divided among the 10 municipalities based on population and the towns will get the checks. So I think Marbletown, we had I think under 3,000 people in the program. So if everybody gets $50, we'll probably get about 125,000 Marbletown residents. So we want everybody to cash them and treat yourself to something good. But we'll have stuff on our website. I handed out something to the board about our leash law, not a leash law. We don't have a leash law right now. And I don't know, I emailed some of yous. We don't have a leash law. So we can have policies and we can have signs and signs up, but they really are not enforceable. So it's, I don't know if you saw it. I think I gave you, I AI'd it. It's pretty cool. So AI came up with just a mock-up of a leash law. Just speaking for me, I think we should look to enact one.
I did one for you guys way back, but nothing happened.
We didn't do anything, not that I remember. You know, and I actually had a lady on 213 stopped in the other day, last week, and said that she's had a few dogs from the meadows that have gone down to her house. So
I was out there with my dog today and somebody, their dog was the dog wasn't even near them. And I
Yeah.
had a conversation with them and I got some pushback and I just said, well, don't bring your dog back.
yeah, but we can't enforce it.
Oh, I know that.
So technically today, if 10 people go and let their dogs run loose, we can't give them a ticket. We can't do anything because we do not have a leash law. So anyway, I passed it out. If anybody wants to see it, I can make you copies. It's totally just an AI generated, but I really think we need to do it. We can hire, it gives us the ability to hire an off-duty police officer, a retired police officer. They can go there and write tickets.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Our committee went back and forth in depth in our last meeting about how do you build a friendly atmosphere, but then also create enough teeth where this kind of thing is enforced. And our only kind of piece of feedback on the enforcement was to ensure that it actually can happen. So we didn't know if there was the ability to hire someone or impose the fine. So I think as long as the town feels like there are resources to have someone come.
Well, it doesn't mean we have to. It just gives us it's like a parking law.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want them, but if somebody's,
Periodically, and I think as
Yeah.
long as there is a mechanism for that, then it has teeth and people will enforce it. And I think the other thing we had talked about was clearly there are a lot of dogs that want to be walked to this park. It's perfect for dogs. And so our subcommittee will work on creating a leashed dog walk kind of meetup at the park. That
I
at least
love
creates a
that
moment
idea.
For community and building, so the park remains inviting, but in a safer way.
no, that's great. I mean, you know, to me, it's common sense. Mary and I remember we were on the rail trail like 3 weeks ago with the DEP and our engineer Ted looking at a leak on the rail trail. And 200, 300 yards down the straightaway, you could see a lady walk in and the dog's just going like this. There's 5 or 6 of us standing there. She walks right by with the dog unleashed. It was a nice dog, but the dog's running up to us sniffing. It's like, wouldn't you 500 feet away when you see people throw the stupid leash on the dog, but people aren't even aware to do that, you know? So, and we had somebody bit at the park last summer, which at the town park, the 11-year-old kid or 9 or 11, the lady grabbed their 2 dogs that were unleashed, threw them in her car and took off. The poor kid, young boy, had to get rabies shots and shots because they didn't know if the dogs were registered or vaccinated. So this, not to say this law is going to prevent that, but it gives us the ability to have somebody go down there or somebody patrol the rail trail. And the reality is, if you pay them $300 for the day, you know they're going to write 10 tickets and it's going to cover the cost of them. And honestly, I don't sympathize with people that don't leash their dogs in town parks and town spots. It's common sense. You go there in the morning and you're the only one there and you want to throw a tennis ball, so be it. As soon as somebody comes there, you got to put the dog on a leash, period. There's no sympathy. There's no second chance. And that's it. And this comes from somebody that brings his 2 dogs to work every day. So, and they steal Juliet's food when I don't put the leash on them. They run in her office and steal, but so.
Eat anything. Anything.
That's the best.
And the law does go beyond leash. It goes beyond leash to go to picking up after your dog and other things. Which is,
That's
And-
gotten a little better, I have to say.
Yeah.
Not as good as I would like it, but
During the winter, it was.
it was horrible. People were just like, I know, it's disgusting.
That's what I was going to say, it's just the bags and,
Yeah.
you know, how we, I think from some experience I had with working on the Shokin Trail and some of the other places, I think you need to put bags out and have a place for people.
We have
We
that.
do.
To
And
dispose of them,
only
but
2 places out.
you know, getting people to,
Yeah, but I,
Listen, you can get a stick and throw it in the stupid
My dog-
woods, you know? They're too lazy to do that even, people.
I know, and my dogs poop the whole time on my walk. I just carry it. Who cares? I just stick it in the bag in my pocket. It smells a little bit, but deal with
Your
it.
dog owners should know.
Away
Bring
when
your
you
own
get back.
bags. We have some as a courtesy, but bring your own
4
bags.
in a 15-minute walk the other day on the Walk Hill Trail.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I know.
Crazy, but
and as an aside, we also got a complaint about a chicken and a rooster.
We get those every day.
So if you have
You should
chickens
see the complaints we get. You read my email, you see the.
in your own property,
Every day.
the cow that was on 209.
Oh, that was so
They
sad.
shot that poor cow.
He shot it.
Really?
It was a bull. It
Bull.
was a bull. They had to kill it.
Aw.
Yeah, it was a
It
shame.
was the gun out of the trailer.
I think they cut him up though. The snakes. They shot him. So.
Rich, just on the rules, is there anything you need further from our subcommittee or committee or?
So I think what we should do is, Tracy, if you want to check on the legality of it, I actually was going to send it to Jim Bacon too, only because Jim Bacon does some legal work for us. He's a town judge in New Paltz and they have a police department. So he knows how to integrate it to make sure if a ticket comes in here, our judges aren't like, it's not written right, it's not the proper procedures. So I was thinking he could know how to integrate it. So when a police officer writes a ticket, and it comes to court, because remember we were writing parking tickets and they came to court or one of our judges got it and she's like, this is totally illegal. And we ordered them on eBay, the tickets. Lady mailed the $25 in from South Carolina. So, so I think we just want to make sure it's legal and then we'll give it to you. And I mean, I don't know, you saw it. It's like literally a page and a couple sentences. It's pretty.
Amy and Joe is not here.
Oh, you were, and you saw that, did I send?
Just one other consideration, although I feel like we'll defer to the town on this, is we thought brevity is helpful. Like if you're someone that is not gonna do this, 15 bullets are not gonna convince you. So I think that would be our only piece
No,
of feedback is-
The law,
it goes in
The law
code.
won't be posted
the law is not
necessarily.
posted, you just have a sign that.
It
says, "We have a
basically
leash
says,
law."
"Leash law enforced."
I missed that. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So,
And that's fine.
so this is the law behind that statement. That's all.
You can send it to me, Jim, whatever
I
works.
thought I sent it to you.
I don't think so.
I could have swore I sent it to you.
Here we go.
Thank you. So, yeah, but we can do nothing unless we have a law. We can't enforce any policy. Policies can't be enforced without a law. Other thing, our 2024 financials have been filed with the state for the water district and for the highway in the town. So that's behind us. Last thing, the county's working on ambulance money. I don't know if everybody's been reading that in the paper. There's been some competing resolutions from some legislators and from the executive's office. Not quite sure where that's going to go. The good news is Marbletown doesn't have ALS service right now. We've got what they call BLS, which is basic life support, which ALS is advanced life support. That's a paramedic. They can administer more drugs. They can do needles. It's when people are having, heart trouble, unconsciousness, strokes. So we don't have a service right now that, we can rely on. New Paltz will come when they can. Empress will come when they can. But a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes we're not able to get an ALS. So the county, part of their plan would be to fund New Paltz to cover advanced life support for most of Marbletown. And then actually they would give the city of Kingston money. And it looks like on their map, the city of Kingston would cover North Marbletown. So if we had any ALS advanced life support need up there. So I think that's good news. The county's cutting out the private ambulance providers, which I'm not quite sure why. They just want to deal with the nonprofits. But that's their deal. They're paying for it. They can determine what they want to do. So there'll be more on that. And then, do we have anything else? Heather's got a couple things.
In High Falls, they're going to be doing the hydrant flushing April 21st through the 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on those days. And that's in High Falls.
Yeah,
That's from Terry.
from Terry. And then the water meters are going pretty good.
Yeah.
We've been cranking. He's been doing quite a few a day.
Yeah.
So we are getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it for me. Anything with you guys?
Just that I had that meeting yesterday with Alex, who's terrific. Got a lot of energy behind sprucing up High Falls. And we met with the DOT, who are being very helpful. And I talked to Rich. We're going to have a meeting with Alex, Rich and I, to talk about this one grant that we can apply for in the fall. But the county also just had some very simple suggestions of things that we could, that they could help us with. It wouldn't be a lot of money. And so we just have to come up with a plan and see where we go.
Yeah. And, one thing talking about grants, the town, for every grant, there's a contribution from the town. And for these sidewalk grants, they're 20%.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So the sidewalk grant from Marbletown School to 213
Yeah.
or to 209 was estimated to be, I think, like 2.4 million. So if we got the grant, we would have been responsible for over $400,000.
And that's, yesterday's meeting was kind of hilarious because Alex was like, well, we could put the sidewalks here and here. And I was like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, but we're going to be responsible for 20% of that.
It's-
Let's just, and what I also learned that in terms of this one particular grant for the sidewalks, it's a infrastructure grant. Talk about length of time. It's usually about 5 years before you can put the spade in the ground. That's how long it takes to get the money.
Yeah, it's-
So at that point, your costs have gone up. So your 20% is going to be even higher. It's nuts.
It's painful. And then even like at the town park, the bathroom grant we got for the county, we were getting $100,000, but what was the estimated cost? Still about 160, 260. 207. So, the town's going to have a $107,000 bill on that one. So, you buy playground equipment, then we buy that. We're into over $200,000 there. And then you got 20% on this grant. And then you got the community center. And while we are fortunate to have reserves, they can start going awfully quick when we have all these projects.
I have a question about sidewalks. Do they have to be concrete? Can they be gravel? Or is there a law that says?
I don't know the answer.
It's a DOT question, but
Yeah, it's a good
I can find
question.
out.
That's a good
about that.
question,
They
actually.
can't be-
I've never seen a gravel DOT, so I've never seen a gravel sidewalk that DOT's done.
Like crushed stone with walk-
Yeah, it's a
I
good
don't-
question. I don't know either.
I mean, part of this one that they're looking at as an initial sidewalk, which is really a safety issue, is because people are parking on this one spot, like as you come out of Mohonk and you take a left, right there, people park there, and it's really dangerous because particularly when the town is crowded, you can't see as you're coming out, and they've had a couple of accidents. So I think part of the reason you want to put aside like a real sidewalk is so people don't park there. But It's something we can look into.
Would we build on the plans that were already done?
Well, there was enough,
There were plans done. No, we haven't seen them, but there's apparently were plans for sidewalks in High Falls done 15 or 20 years
20
ago.
years
So
ago,
they may
right.
still be valid.
right.
They're
They
looking
said-
for them.
They said that we never followed through on it, on
It was
those.
from the early 2000s.
2007.
Yeah, so it was a long
So it
time
wasn't
ago.
us. So, but they said it was never, it had been, the project had been suggested, but that it was
Yeah.
never brought it.
We're gonna-
So
I hope we,
The subdivision took priority over it.
Rich,
I
did
can,
the speeding signs, remember those speeding signs that you put up?
Yep.
Are they available again this
Lou-
year?
Lou's got them. I think he just put them up somewhere in town. I'll ask
Pine
him.
Bush Road really.
Okay, I'm sure Lou might be
Badly, and the
watching.
school's right there, but people are,
I will ask him.
and just to go back to the bathroom budget, can you share that with us? It's up to 2,007.
I think I shared, that was done last year. I did it. I know we've sent it. We approved it. We
I
voted.
thought
on
it was 65 or 50,000.
No, we had to make a minimum match of 50.
Uh-huh.
So we had to match, so it was a $100,000 grant. The town was responsible for a match of a minimum of 50,000. So, but these bathrooms came in at, the estimated cost, 206 or whatever he said.
The engineering.
Yeah, I mean, we need a septic field. We need quite a bit of stuff done, a water treatment. What? No, it's got like two, it's kind of a funky one, so we can look at it. We may be able to get the cost down, but the plan that we're gonna, the plan with the county applying for the grant was just a new septic field. So,
And the building that's there can't be retrofitted or added on?
so we're gonna keep that building, and that building, we'll decommission all the water, all the fixtures, and it'll probably be storage. We could even use it as like a medical room because you have to have a nurse or somebody on staff, a healthcare professional during summer camp. So we'll probably retrofit it, but I don't think we'll get rid of that building. I mean, unless we think we should, but you kind of want to keep it, right? Yeah, I think we'll clean it up.
It's all freshly painted inside now. It looks.
I don't know. I think I'd rather go in the woods than go in that building.
Well, it's the smell of the water.
Yeah. I don't know, but anyway, it's good. But what I'm getting at is everything we do, all these grants are great, but boy, the cost can add up pretty quick. And Tom has done so much work for us getting grants. And, in this building, we're looking at solar. We got 100,000 from the county, but it's a 300 kilowatt system, which could cost 500,000. So who makes up the difference to get it? And it's just so, it's, there's not this pot of gold that we can just, keep just pulling out of and doing it. And we want to do all this. And if we have to borrow, then that's a decision we can all make together too. But we've got a lot of projects and the resources will go quick. So, but with that said, we want to get stuff done. All right. Anything else? I guess we'll open up to public comment. Okay, let Vivi go first.
I realized when you were talking about what you would rather do over here is throw a ball up in the basket. Well, that's the kind of thing that you enjoyed as a young person. I enjoyed art and music and dancing. And so the community center would be very good for the young people who like that kind of thing, hearing stories told. So yes, it's not good for basketball, but there are other kinds of students who would prefer the other kind of activity.
That's fair. And just remember one thing, when the Legion gave us the town that building in 2001 or 2, it was a teen center. It lasted a couple years, but there wasn't really a lot of interest after a while, and it kind of morphed away from being a teen center. So that building was originally
We
for.
have this fabulous Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee.
That's true too. And that's fair, but it was a team, but it was geared, and they had programming there after school for teenagers. And it was not the Marbletown Community Center, it was the teen center. And it didn't last long, let's put it that way. So,
that's a very good point.
yeah, but thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I just want to share some very exciting news. The Marbletown Environmental Commission has partnered with the Rosendale Environmental Commission And we have a film event planned at the Rosendale Theater on April 25th at 7 p.m. It's a Friday night, and it's about the hidden crisis of microplastics, how they affect our land and our water and our bodies. And it's a really exciting event that we're planning. We have some fabulous speakers, including Jen Metzger, our county executive, Mark Ryder, executive director of Ulster County Resource Recovery, and Megan Wolf, who's a public health expert in the problems with microplastics. We have a Q&A after the film with these panelists. We have local sponsors that are going to be there offering some solutions, such as the High Falls Food Co-op and the Second Nature Refillery down in New Paltz. And the theater, because this is during Earth Week, the theater is offering very flexible donation, tickets by donation from between $3 and $30. So we're really making it accessible to as many people who can get there. We're already selling tons of tickets. So if you are interested, please mark your calendar and get your tickets. They're on the website at the Rosendale Theater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Can I get a little close real quick? Lisa,
Yes.
the only problem is, our bylaws for committees, volunteer committees, are that they're not allowed to charge money for any events.
We're not charging the money, the theater is.
I was only kidding. I was trying to get you an April Fool's joke.
April Fools, we had this, I brought this up at the ECC meeting.
What's happening with the money that the theater collects, they're gonna roll that money into us being able to show another environmental film in the future. It's just, they're really doing a nice job.
I was kidding.
I like it.
Okay, anyone else? All right,
We do an executive session.
yeah, we're gonna go, the board, we're gonna go into executive session to discuss, labor issues. We have contract negotiations with our unions, and, we have a personnel issue in town. Those are reasons we're allowed to go into executive session. So there's no more, after when we come out, we're not gonna vote on anything in executive session. And when we come out of executive session, we're gonna adjourn the meeting. So everybody's welcome to wait in the hall. It'll probably be 15 minutes. But I honestly, nothing else will be done with any public business, so you don't have to wait.
We're not gonna give an update on some.
Oh, and we got some litigation, which everybody knows about, that we've got some updates
Can
on.
somebody make a motion?
So can somebody make a motion to go in I made the motion
Okay.
for litigation, personnel issues, and union contracts.
Second.
Mary Ann,
Thank you.
second.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mary.
everybody. Thanks for coming. And I'm gonna log off YouTube.